Another execution in the United States and more controversy. This time, not only the general controversy surrounding the way capital punishment is carried out in the U.S., but outrage at the fact that all fingers point to an innocent man being executed.
Human rights groups lined the streets of Atlanta today to protest tomorrow's scheduled execution of convicted murderer Troy Davis.
This is a case that has fallen apart without the benefit of physical evidence. It relies on witness testimony that has come completely unraveled.
Davis was sentenced to death in 1991 for killing an off-duty police officer. 7 of the 9 witnesses who testified against him have since recanted or contradicted their testimony. That has brought Davis the support of prominent political figures, ranging from former President Jimmy Carter to Ronald Reagan's appointed FBI Director William Sessions to the European Union's top diplomat.
As there were no physical evidence nor reliable witness, Troy Davis's family and supporters were hoping to get a stay in execution to give them more time for a new trial.
Martina Correa, can you talk about the significance of today's hearing and Troy Davis being given another date to die on September 23rd?
Okay, the significance of the hearing today is a clemency hearing that we're having. And last year, Troy came within 23 hours of being executed. And the clemency board, the Georgia Pardon Parole Board, gave him a 90-day stay. And we tried to go through the court systems. And the Georgia Supreme Court ruled against us in the spring 4-3, with the Chief Justice writing a strong dissenting opinion, saying that the court was morally wrong in its decision not to give him at least a hearing, because most likely his hearing would have led to a new trial and Troy would have been exonerated. And so the prosecutors in Savannah, Georgia, what they did was they waited till the Supreme Court was actually out on hiatus, and they got a judge in Savannah to sign a death warrant, because the prosecutors do not have to wait for the Supreme Court, because we still had a cert petition before the Supreme Court, and they weren't even supposed to review it until October. And so what they did was they tried to circumvent the court by getting an execution date for Troy. And then the parole board came forward, and they moved the clemency hearing up. The execution date is actually September 23rd, but they moved the clemency hearing up until today so they can hear from additional witnesses who've never been heard in a court of law, and other witnesses who recanted. So today, we're hoping that the Georgia Parole Board will stand on its word when they say that there will not be an execution in the state of Georgia when there's doubt. And there's only one witness that stands against Troy, and that's the witness that 9 additional people say is the actual murderer in this case. There's no DNA, no gun, no weapon, and only the eyewitness testimony is what convicted my brother Troy Anthony Davis in Savannah, Georgia, of killing an off-duty police officer. And all of those witnesses, except for one, has came and changed their testimony, and the other witness, the only thing that he knew was that the person was left-handed and Troy.
However, a stay was not given to Troy Davis, who professes innocence to the end. This is nothing new in the United States, as since 1989, when DNA evidence has been allowed, there have been hundreds of post-conviction cases that were overturned. This means that people who had been sentenced, sometimes to life imprisonment, sometimes to death, were actually innocent. Unfortunately, in the case of Troy Davis, the court did not allow him to have another trial. The question is why? With all the doubt, why wasn't this man given another trial? Davis's guilt was not proven beyond a reasonable doubt. On the contrary, it appears his innocence was easier to prove than his guilt. Ironically, in the same week of Davis's execution, Samuel David Crowe, a white convicted killer who confessed to murdering a store manager, was given a stay. Crowe's sentence was commuted to life imprisonment in the same state that had just killed Davis. Many may look at the slogan of the American justice system and ask, is justice really blind in the United States, or is it still based on the color of one's skin?